Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name's Davey Deathray, and I'm sorry, guys. I just can't go in with the big, bad Davey Deathray energy when I've got such smooth Christmas jazz in the background. So, I don't know. Maybe get used to this, at least during the holiday season, as we read the Terrifier 3 novelization. Yes, Damien Leone's Terrifier 3. Is it Leone or is it Leone? I don't know. I hear people say both. I've said both, and I'm back to Leone. So, I don't know. Damien, reach out to me. Let me know. I don't like mispronouncing people's names, but I will continue to do thusly until I know either way. This one is adapted by Tim Waggoner. He did the X Trilogy adaptation, as well as the David Gordon Green Halloween movie adaptations. And yesterday we read through the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And today we're going to be tackling chapters, right? Did we do chapter 1, 2, and 3 yesterday? And we're doing 4, 5, and 6? Is that what we're doing? I don't even know, guys. It was such a whirlwind. It's been such a wild couple of days in the Davey Deathray life here. Oh, so we read, yes, the prologue, chapters 1 and 2, and today 3, 4, and 5. So 6, 7, and 8 is an option for you guys. You know, originally I was going to just have this available for the channel members after the first installment. But really what I thought would be fun is, why not just keep it going? As long as we can reach that super chat goal, I'll put myself through reading something I've never read on a live stream. It's, gosh, dare I say, more difficult than just going live and hanging out with you guys. So since it makes me a little uncomfortable, I figured let's go ahead and see if you guys really want it. That's right. Erica, one of our great moderators here and on Discord, says Davey has a goal started. He will read chapters 6, 7, and 8 live this weekend if he hits his goal. And I might even do that Saturday during the day. We'll see. We'll see what we got. So let me just say hello to everybody, and then we'll get going on chapter 3. How about it? Guys, okay, let me put on a little bit of a regular voice because I'm so excited. So excited that the camera won't focus on me. I just got back from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025, and man, what a movie. It was a lot of fun, guys. I don't want to build it up too much because I don't want it to be a disappointment for anyone that goes and sees it. And I won't say anything even remotely close to a spoiler, so don't worry. There's bigger spoilers on the Bloody Disgusting website. And as you know, Cineverse is the film production company that Bloody Disgusting is behind. So it's technically like a Bloody Disgusting movie. And it is bloody disgusting and really fun. Man, I mean, I think it easily is better than the original. I don't think that's the most difficult task, but it was really good, guys. I'm going to go back and check this one out at the theater again. Rowan Campbell puts in another solid performance. And Ruby Modine, Matthew Modine's daughter, really, really good as well. And she is cute in a different kind of way. I like her. I like it when, you know, I have a tough time sometimes telling if a man is handsome or attractive. But when it comes to, you know, actresses and everything, I mean, actors as well, to me, talent is the most important thing. Looks are just icing on the cake, right? And I like when people have kind of a different sort of look. And Ruby Modine is very pretty in a, I don't know, not weird, like Hollywood-ified, you know, kind of thing. I don't know really what I'm saying, but she looks like girl next door, very pretty. So, and she's really good in the performance as well. I've never seen her in anything else, so I've only got this to go off of. But yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025, I highly recommend it. And I will say this about Mike P. Nelson, who directed the film, and he also directed the Sweet Revenge Jason Universe short. Man, they did not utilize everything he can do, because he, you know, really has his stamp on this movie, and it's got a little bit of a Tarantino vibe going on in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. So if you like that kind of visual storytelling, then you might enjoy Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 even more. And that's the last time I'm going to say the title of that movie. So I'm going to say what's up to everybody here, and then we're going to get going. Lamontre Gillard, how are you doing, bud? Chester Franklin, what's happening? Adrian James, how's it going? We got Hollywood Lido, one of our great channel members. Guys, Lido's going to be on the channel next Wednesday night. We're going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street. So Freddy fans, Fred heads, come and join us. Lido is a massive fan. I'm pretty lukewarm on Freddy. Let's see if Lido's enthusiasm can rub off on me a little bit. How about it? We got Antonis Andriotis, one of our great channel members, jumping on in. How are you doing, Antonis? So good to see you. Jay Beach, what's happening, bud? Always a pleasure. Gory Tiger, how are you doing, Gory Tiger? Oh, look at that. We've got Trashbox Mandy in the house, one of our great channel members. How are you doing, Mandy? Hope you're having a great evening. It sounds like you had a really lovely day doing volunteer work for people in need with your coworkers. That's awesome. And guys, Mandy likes doing that stuff year round. I just think it's extra special to do that around the holidays. Help each other out and crank it up a notch. You know what I mean? It's a really sweet thing to do. Let's see who else we've got in here. Cake Boy 227. What's happening, Cake Boy? Is this your very first time? I think I saw you over on Good Real Hunting, just in the chat. But also YouTube is doing that thing where they're showing the handles instead of the screen names. So maybe you've been in here before, and maybe I've forgotten. I've, enjoyed my fair share of cannabis in my life. Not currently. It's been a while, actually. But it still has its effect. You know what I mean? We got Sith Lord Ern in the house. How are you doing, Sith Lord? Let's see what else we got here. Look, I'm Woody. Pesky. Oh, yeah, my contacts. Yeah, they're just pesky when I'm reading, but my glasses reflect like every little bit of light. I can't put you guys through that. It would drive me crazy. I've got standards and I have boundaries, and I don't even let myself go against those standards or cross those boundaries. How about it? Let's see who else we have. Tia Nina, one of our great channel members. How are you doing, Tia? I said this last night, but I'll say it again. Guys, Tia's really funny over on the Discord. She cracks me up when we watch movies. I mean, I love everybody over there. Tia really hits my funny bone in the right spot. And that sounds dirty, but I mean it in the most wholesome way possible. I'm a big Mystery Science Theater fan, and I'm like, wow, the stuff that Tia says, it's like I'm watching a chat of Mystery Science Theater. And of course, we have the lovely Miss Erica, who I had mentioned when she brought up my super chat goal. Shout out to all the mods, guys. You guys are great. Thank you so much for sticking with the channel and doing everything that you do. Guys, the moderators donate their time and their efforts. And maybe they would be hanging out anyways, just as part of the community, which is really sweet as well. But a lot of them go out of their way to be here. So I really do appreciate it. Usually the moderators don't have to do too much other than help me sling my shit. And when I say sling my shit, I mean, say to like the stream, look at the super chat goal, all that kind of stuff. Who else do we have here? We got Bronson Wright Wolf. Merry Christmas, Bronson. Christmas season is going well. And guys, Bronson, I've got a review coming for Bronson. However, Bronson, it's just been very busy this time of year in my personal life and on YouTube. But I will be watching for the very first time Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. Never seen it before, guys. I will be watching that, and I will be reviewing it for Bronson because he signed up as a top tier member and requested that one. That's right. If you're a top tier, which I think is fire, then you can request a movie review. Now, every month I can't do a movie review for every member that's in that tier, but I can give you at least one. We got Papa John in the house. How are you doing, Papa John? So good to see you. We got Kyle Curtis Flett. How are you doing, Kyle? The Flett from another world. Kyle, did you just pass 1K? I know you're dangerously close. It's been a whirlwind. It has been a whirlwind. It's been a windy world. It's been a whirlwind for me the past couple days. I haven't been able to pay as much attention to everything else that I'd like to, but it looks like you might have passed that mark. How are you doing, Artur Etus? Ho, 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 right back at you. We got Aaron Click in the house. What's happening, Aaron? So good to see you. We got Prince in the house as well. Greetings, programs, Tomb Raider games incoming next year. I really liked that Tomb Raider reboot they did years ago, and then the sequel. I dug those. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Matthew Modine's daughter. I'm pretty sure. You guys can fact check me on that. I think I checked it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 for me. Maybe I do need to go to a 10-star rating or a 1 out of 10 rating. But Jason, I'm really glad you enjoyed it too. I guess if I did a 10-star, maybe I would say 9 out of 10 just to like give that little bit of wiggle room. But when I'm just thinking 5, like for what it is, and when you look at the pantheon of Christmas horror films, and there are some good ones, don't get me wrong. I do think that this newest Silent Night, Deadly Night is right there at the tippy top with the classics, for sure. Let's see here. She is a next door hottie. Yeah, she is. You know, I will say this, and I swear I'm not going to sit here and talk about looks all day. I like, she's got a unique looking nose, and I like it. I like it. I like when people don't augment their faces, or at least don't do it in a way that's so drastic. I'm not judging anyone that does. You've got to be happy with you, and it's not any of my business to say don't do that. But I like when people are authentic and genuine, both inside and out. Aaron says, Davey, how is it in the dumb character decisions department? That trope has been really irritatingly common in a lot of movies. I know, but I mean more than normal lately. What did I say was in dumb character decisions? I don't know. Did I say that tonight? Dumb character decisions? I don't think I said that tonight. Aaron, you're going to have to clarify because I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here for the sweater. It's Purdy. How are you doing, Jamie? Our OG Death Squad mod and channel member. Thank you so much for joining us, Jamie. Always great to see you. Okay, Mike P. Nelson. My brain goes to P. Sherman, Wallaby Way, Sydney. So when I hear Mike P. Nelson, I think about Mike Nelson, Michael J. Nelson from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Yeah. Fachi Cinema. How are you doing, Matt? So good to see you, man. I hope everything is all right with your fam. I just saw your status post on YouTube and just sending you guys all the love. I mean, I'm always thinking of you guys and everything, but a little bit extra when I see something like that. So I hope all is well. And feel free to reach out if you need anything or if you just want to chat. Give the lady all of our love, the whole collective community. Awesome. I'm glad you like that. And guys, and I really mean it when I say I won't spoil stuff. I really don't. However, after this, guys, I'm going to record a review with Cecil from the horror show. We might get into spoilers, but we always warn people before we do. We don't mix in spoilers with a review. We usually talk non-spoilers. We might do a section of spoilers. Jamie, I really wish I were eating wings. Don't make me jealous. I have not eaten dinner, guys. I came straight from the movie. Hey, no worries, Jason. You picked the right day to miss a stream. It'll be a lot more fun tonight. I guarantee you. Oh, she was in... Oh, is she like the weird friend? I haven't seen those movies, but I think I know who she is. She's like the weird roommate. Okay. Yes. I hope they're hot wings. Yeah. I do. Yes, I agree. I definitely agree. I'm curious to know what Aaron meant about that thing. So I'm like kind of scrolling through. Yes, you can join the Discord, guys. Totally free. We watch movies over there. It's really fun. Jason, I don't know what you're saying about Billy Chapman. I'm just going to skip it because I don't know if there's anything that could be spoilery and I don't want to pop it up on the screen. So no offense. Playing one of my Sims games while I listen to Davey read to us. Got a hot peppermint chocolate. A good night, I would say. I love that. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into this, guys. I think I've said hello to everybody. But I am curious to see... Ooh, hey, Wander This World. Feels like a lovely day in the neighborhood with Mr. Davey Rogers. Yeah, I got my sweater on and everything. Hope you're doing well, bud. So great to see you. Feel like it's been a minute, and I love seeing people come on back. What's happening, Marshlands? How are you doing? King Matthew III, how are you doing? Oh, I'm asking you if the remake Frequent Offender. Okay. I when you put it in quotes, I was like, oh no, did I say that? I didn't think I said that. I don't think so. No, I would say it's a very well-written slasher film, psychological slasher. Yeah. I can't think of any instance of dumb character decisions. Yeah, no, I think it was, I mean, I just saw it the one time. So, but everything felt properly motivated, a very tight, relatively small cast. So you get good time with each one of your characters. And it doesn't fall into running up the stairs when you should be going out the front door kind of tropes. Shout out to Scream. No popcorn at the movie. No, I usually don't eat anything at the theater. Teal Kit. Oh, I eat candy if I have it, but I didn't have any. How are you doing, Teal Kit? Great to see you. If I go to a movie with Trashbox Mandy, she's usually pretty good about bringing candy. So, and maybe I'll get to go see Silent Night, Deadly Night with Trashbox Mandy. I don't know. If it works out for her schedule, I think it would be a fun movie to see with somebody and to see their first time reaction. Now, let me just make sure I can actually read this. Okay. Because I might have to turn up my light here because I don't really have a little night light. But yeah, guys, make sure you like that. Hit the like button. Like that button. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Every moment that I get to spend with you guys is such a blast and such a break from all of the madness. So I certainly do appreciate it. If you want me to read chapters 6, 7, and 8 this weekend, we've got a super chat goal. So if we get 5 super chats of $4.99 or more, I'll go ahead and find a time. It might be Saturday during the day. So keep that in mind. And if not, no big deal. What I'll do if we don't reach that goal is I still will read it over for the channel members. So yeah, channel members will still get a live stream of the rest of the book. So you can throw down the super chat now if you want to, or if you're not a member and you still want to see or hear me read the rest of the book, channel membership can cost as low as 99 cents a month. And if you just want to dip in for that 1 month and check this out and then dip out, I don't take any offense. So I'm just happy to have you guys here. How about that? All right. Little ASMR kind of Davey here. I'm in. Let's fucking go. I'll bring the Charleston Chew. I'll eat the whole box, trash box. So look out. In fact, guys, the original trash box is a Charleston Chew box. I told the story last night. Mandy can fill you in if she wants to tell you. No, this is a cup from H45. Yeah, it's a cup from H45. It was just one of the things that you were, I think it was given. I think it was not gutter garb, one of those like gutter garbs or whatever. I bought a couple shirts, and I think one of the things that they were either giving away or it was relatively inexpensive, and I wanted to have the cup as well. So guys, I think I have to turn up the light. I'm sorry, it's gonna blow my face out a little bit. I'm gonna look as pale as I really am. So mind my chesticles as I reach up and turn the light up here. There we go. How about that? That's not so bad. I don't look like so blown out. My forehead looks like you could put a advertisement on it though. Okay. I'm going to scoot the microphone closer. There we go. No, it is, it takes some pretty big chunks and pieces from the original. But I will say this, Antonis, and I mentioned this in my short review, my out of theater reaction. And for whatever reason, when I upload shorts from my phone, YouTube does this like jittery kind of thing. I don't know why it's doing that. So weird. It happened today, and it happened when I was at Cecil's with Stranger Things. So kind of odd. But no, it takes some of those things from the original film, but it finds its own creative new way of telling the story. and there's a really fun way of how it handles the slasher element that is something that I'm not saying that's never been done before. I've never seen it been done in the way it was done before in this movie. So I found it to be pretty refreshing, and for being a remake, had a lot of originality and ingenuity in it. I will say that. Thank you so much for the 5, Antonis. 4 more to go, and you guys get 3 more chapters this weekend. So I'm going to have a sip of water, and then we'll get going. How about it? And then I'm going to turn down the music a little bit, because I remember Aaron saying that the music had to be brought down a little bit. Is that okay? I think that's pretty okay right there, where it is. Let me know if it's too loud. But what we'll do, guys, is we'll take breaks in between chapters, just so I can say what's up to you guys and give my eyes a break. Jason, I have not seen The Running Man. I might see it when it goes to streaming. But yeah, I did see Fackham Hall before I saw Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's a parody of like Downton Abbey and Bridgerton and all that kind of stuff. And it was really funny. It's like Naked Gun, Airplane, Hot Shots, just like ridiculous. They knew when to end the joke, which I found pretty awesome. At least it fit my sensibilities quite a bit. Okay, guys, so here we go. Last we left the book, Art had laid waste to the 2 police officers that were on the scene at the Terrifier. So this is closing out Terrifier 2. We sort of went back to that. And chapter 3 begins with Haley Mendoza. Haley Mendoza, late 60s, stocky, dressed in multiple layers of clothing, sat in a subway car next to her shopping cart containing a large, full laundry bag. She kept one hand on the cart, not so much to protect it as she was the car's sole passenger, but to keep it from rolling away from her. Vanessa Dorsey, whom she sometimes saw in the alley behind Imperial Walk after the restaurant's closing time, once asked her why she carted out around a laundry bag. You know that makes you a literal bag lady, right? Haley had just shrugged. The irony appeals to me. Haley didn't think of herself as a bag lady, though. She preferred the term temporarily unhoused individual. But considering she'd been living on the streets for the last 20 years, she supposed she could give some thought to dropping temporarily. She and her husband Craig had lived in a big 2-story house in one of Miles County's nicer sections, and they'd probably still be there today if the bastard hadn't died of a sudden heart attack one night when they were watching Jeopardy. Haley and Craig had adored each other from the moment they started dating in their late teens. They loved being together, so much so that they rarely socialized, either solo or as a couple. They preferred their own company to that of anyone else, and while they had a number of acquaintances, they didn't have real friends. They'd consider having children, but had ultimately decided against it. They refused to allow anything into their lives that might take time and attention away from each other. Haley's sister Rosanna hadn't approved of what she called their obsessive relationship. You're too enmeshed. It's not healthy. Couples shouldn't spend every moment together. They need their own set of friends and outside interests. They need some time alone. It's what keeps a relationship fresh. For God's sake, you aren't a pair of moonstruck teenagers anymore. Whenever Rosanna got like this, which was often, Haley would pretend to listen, occasionally nodding her head as if agreeing. Then she would ignore her advice. Then came the night when Craig's heart exploded in his chest. Congratulations, you've won an all-expenses-paid trip to widowhood. She fell into a deep depression after that. How could she go on living without Craig, without the other half of her soul? She hated the parade of family members and coworkers who gave their most sincere condolences via phone during a visit to her house, or less regularly, when they would coax her to go out with them to a coffee shop or bar. None of them knew how she felt. None of them had ever experienced real grief, the kind that ate away at your heart like a cancer. She soon stopped answering the phone and going out for coffee. She did, however, continue going to bars, alone. There she found a wonderful new friend, one who understood her grief and comforted her without judgment. One who came the closest to making her feel the same deep love she and Craig had shared, and she knew she'd never be alone again. She had no idea when she officially became an alcoholic, but one day she found herself unemployed, and soon after that she lost the house. Rosanna had offered to take her in, but only if you stopped drinking and going to AA meetings. No way in hell was Haley going to give up her new friend, not for her sister, not for anyone. So she started living on the streets, and she'd remained there ever since. It wasn't so bad once you learned the ropes. Winter could be a bitch, and if you weren't careful, you might freeze to death. Finding food was always a challenge, and there were days, sometimes weeks, where she'd gone hungry. Finding booze turned out to be easier than she expected. There were lots of ways you could pay for a bottle, provided you were willing to provide certain services for people. That was still true even at her age. So overall, the unhoused life was good, except during Halloween. When some teenagers grew bored with treats, they decided to start focusing on tricks. The meaner, the better. And one of their favorites was tormenting homeless people. Some of their tricks were relatively harmless, stealing your stuff, hitting you with piss-filled balloons, but some were far worse. They hit and kicked you, threw rocks and bricks, or came at you with baseball bats, knives, or even guns. And if they caught you sleeping or passed out, they'd douse you with gasoline, light a match, and watch you burn, baby, burn. These things didn't happen to every homeless person on the streets during Halloween, of course, but they happened more often than most folks knew or wanted to know. Miles County seemed like a good place with decent people living there, and for the most part, it was. But there was a darkness at its core, a sick rot, like an infection that refused to heal. The street people knew it. They could feel it around them all the time, especially at night. Haley thought it was this darkness that sometimes brought out the worst in certain people, and one of those times was Halloween. So she took precautions. Every year she performed a few extra favors to pay for subway tokens. Then she washed up in a bathroom, sometimes at the bus station, other times at a church, if they'd let her in, so she wouldn't smell too bad. Then she'd get on the subway and ride it all night. If security or a cop came up to tell her to move on, she'd tell them that she was on her way to, or if it was late, from a party, and that bag lady was her costume. It worked like a fucking charm year after year, and come sunrise, she'd be safe. So far, this Halloween had been one of the calmest and most peaceful she'd ever experienced, and with any luck, it would stay that way the rest of the night. The subway train began to slow as it approached the next station, and Haley sat up straighter. She didn't drink much on Halloween. She had to remain alert throughout the night, and she didn't want to smell like a liquor store and draw unwanted attention to herself. She wasn't sober. She hadn't been truly sober for the last 2 decades, but she needed to appear that way. When the train came to a stop, the doors slid open, and Haley waited to see if anyone would come on. She hoped no one would, and she'd continue having this car all to herself. But unfortunately, one passenger did get on, and he looked like trouble with a capital fucking T. Haley's eyesight wasn't so great these days. She figured she'd probably had cataracts, but it wasn't like she could afford to have them fixed. No way could she ever do enough services to pay for something like that, but she got by okay with her bad eyes. Right now, though, she feared her fucked up vision was especially poor tonight. The man who entered the car was black, and while she wasn't confident that she was making out his features clearly, it looked like his unblinking eyes bulged from their sockets and a discolored tongue hung from one corner of his mouth. But that wasn't the weirdest thing about his appearance. He wore what looked like a clown costume or maybe a mime outfit, covered in bloodstains, some old, some fresh. And even that wasn't the strangest part. He walked with one hand on the top of his head, as if the damn thing might fall off if he wasn't careful. Someone might have thought it bizarre, if effective, Halloween costume. But Haley was a street person, and she could sense the wrongness coming off this guy like a foul odor wafting up from a clogged sewer. The man, if that word applied, chose a seat on the other side of the car from Haley. For this, she thanked whatever powers in the universe watched over her old drunks like her. He must have noticed her looking at him because he turned his head, literally turned it with his hand, to face her. He raised his free hand and wiggled his fingers in greeting. Then he pointed to his head and shrugged as if to say, "I know, but there's not much I can do about it." Haley quickly looked away, focused her attention on the window opposite her, and steadfastly refused to look at the man again. She hadn't had much to drink tonight, as she usually did, so maybe she was starting to experience the DTs, and he was only a hallucination. She knew better, could feel he was real, but if she pretended hard enough that he wasn't, maybe she'd come to believe it. Christ, she needed a drink. The train continued along its route for several minutes, and the man remained sitting quietly while Haley continued not to look at him. Then they came to a spot where the tracks curved, and Haley tightened her grip on her shopping cart and held onto the edge of her seat with the other hand to keep herself steady. The train leaned as it passed through the curve, and she heard something heavy thud to the floor. Her eyes darted in its direction, and she got an impression of something round lying there, wobbling back and forth due to the car's vibration. She didn't want to know what it was, although she had a goddamn good idea, and she forced herself to concentrate on the window once more. Nothing happened for a moment. Then Haley heard the clomping of those oversized shoes as the man in the bloody clown suit walked across the floor toward her. She began trembling, not from the DTs. Her gut roiled with nausea, and her heart beat so fast that she thought it might burst just like poor Craig's had all those years ago. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped. Out of the corner of her eye, she could see that the man stood only a foot or two from her. Her breath caught in her throat, and she waited for whatever was going to happen next, knowing that she was powerless to stop it. The man stood there for a time, how long she wasn't sure. It felt like fucking eons. Then he started walking again, this time away from her. She was tempted to sneak a peek to see what he was doing, but she didn't, fearing that he might take that as a challenge or worse, an invitation. But she could guess what he did. When you drop something, you pick it up, right? The train began to decelerate, and Haley was so grateful she almost wept. If the man didn't get off at this stop, she would, and she'd leave her shopping cart behind, along with everything she kept in the laundry bag, so that it wouldn't slow her down. The train came to a stop, the doors opened, and Haley, still looking at the window, heard the man's loud footsteps as he exited the car. When the doors slid shut and the car started moving again, she nearly pissed herself in relief. She was still looking at the window when she caught a glimpse of what she thought was the man holding something, around something in both of his hands, a good 6 inches above his neck. Then the train accelerated and the image was gone, assuming it had ever been there at all. She looked down and saw several splotches of blood where the whatever it was had struck the floor when it fell. She let out a shuddering breath and came to a decision. When the train reached its next stop, she was going to disembark and take her chances on the street. It was safer out there. The body walked down the street, still holding Evans's head atop its neck stump. It had been drizzling rain when it had gotten onto the subway, but it was coming down hard now. The body didn't feel the rain, and if it had, it wouldn't have cared. That was the nice thing about not having a brain. You didn't give a shit about anything. The body sensed it was nearing its destination, and as it passed a public trash receptacle, it tossed the head inside. It no longer needed a substitute. It was coming for the real deal. Miles County Psychiatric Hospital. Burke stood in the middle of an old mist-covered graveyard. That was weird enough, considering the last thing he remembered, he'd been at work. But what was even weirder was that everything here, the dead leafless trees, the headstones with their faded, unreadable letters, the tufts of straw-like grass, even the goddamn gloomy sky, was in black and white. He looked down at his hands and saw that he was in black and white too. Was something wrong with his eyes? Had he suddenly gone colorblind? Was that even a thing that happened to people? A figure emerged from the mist, arms outstretched, head slightly raised, feet seeming to glide across the ground. A pale woman, scratch that, a beautiful pale woman, with shoulder-length black hair and black lipstick. At least it looked black. Burke supposed it could be any color. How would he know? She wore a tight black dress with a plunging V neckline and showed her cleavage, the sleeves ending in tatters at her elbows, the ankle-length hem equally as ragged. A leather belt was clinched tightly around her impressively narrow waist, and 2-inch long nails jutted from her fingers. Holy shit, Burke thought. It's Vampira. I thought the same thing. In the 1950s, Mila Nurmi, as Vampira, became television's first horror host. She later starred in the legendary Ed Wood Jr. sci-fi horror disaster piece Plan 9 from Outer Space. Burke had first seen the movie on TV as a kid. Even then, he'd recognized the film was a steaming pile of donkey shit, but Vampira had fascinated him for reasons he didn't understand. Until he hit puberty, that is. He found her sexy as hell, and for the last several years, he tried to convince his wife to dress like Vampira for Halloween, but she always refused. "I'd look ridiculous in that outfit," she'd say. "You'd look amazing," he'd reply, which was true, but he could never convince her of that. Now, here he was, less than 20 feet away from the object of his youthful lust, and she was coming directly toward him. Vampira moved the way she had in Plan 9, taking small, fast steps to simulate gliding, eyes wide, expression blank, arms and head moving with jerky mechanical motions as if she were a life-sized wind-up doll. That's why everything is in black and white, he realized, including himself. Some unknown Halloween magic had whisked him away from his boring life and plunked him down inside the goddamn movie. But now that he understood that he literally inhabited Plan 9 from outer space, the more he noticed how fake everything looked. The gravestones were painted styrofoam, the grass bits of hay tied together and glued to wooden bases, and the ground of rumpled carpet laid over a concrete floor. Milo was real, though. Milo was real, although perhaps altered, as some people believe she'd augmented her appearance by having a few ribs removed to get a waist that narrow. But her overlong fingernails were plastic ones that slipped over the tips of her actual fingers. He wondered if it was one of the reasons she kept her hands up like that as she walked was to prevent those faux nails from falling off. In the movie, aliens attempt to take over Earth by reanimating the dead. This was their 9th plan for conquest, hence the film's title. No explanation of what happened to the first 8 plans, but they'd presumably failed. Exactly how resurrecting the dead was supposed to lead to world domination for aliens wasn't exactly clear. He supposed this meant Vampira was more like a zombie than a vampire, but who cared about such petty details? Whether zombie, vampire, or just herself, Mila Nurmi was gorgeous. The wrestler Tor Johnson played another zombie in the movie, and the third undead being was played by Bela Lugosi, who wore his famous Dracula costume. Unfortunately, Lugosi died after only a few days of filming, and Ed Wood replaced him with his chiropractor, who didn't resemble Lugosi much so. So Wood had him keep his face hidden with Bella's Dracula cape the entire time he was on screen. Neither Johnson, Lugosi, nor the chiropractor was here at the moment, which was fine with Burke. There was definitely 3 was definitely a crowd. Vampira shuffle glided to within 2 feet of him, then stopped. Intense cold emanated from her, making Burke shiver. How did they create that effect? It wasn't like the production had any money for stuff like that, and since the effect wouldn't translate to the screen, why bother? Vampira's face remained expressionless, but her eyes focused on him, and he saw hunger within them. Hunger for him. Heart-pounding, jackhammer fast, he raised an arm, intending to reach out and brush his fingertips over her luxurious night black hair. But he hesitated for several seconds, then lowered his hand. Who was he kidding? He loved his wife, and he wouldn't betray her. A sly voice inside him, one that didn't feel like him, said, "What she doesn't know won't hurt her." But all know. Then to Vampira he said, "I'm sorry, I can't." Her lips formed a mocking smile, and her eyes glowed with a baleful yellow light. The voice inside his head spoke once. "Who said you had a choice?" The cold wafting off Vampira intensified until Burke felt as if he was standing in the midst of an ice storm. She opened her mouth wide, far wider than was humanly possible, revealing a mouth filled with gleaming razor blades in place of teeth. She grabbed hold of the back of his head, and with long talons that were now very real and very sharp. She yanked his head to the side to expose his neck, then lunged forward and sank her metal teeth into his soft, tender flesh. Blood gushed and ran down his chest and back, hot and thick. Burke screamed. A loud crash of thunder sounded outside the hospital, rattling the glass doors of the main entrance. Burke opened his eyes and sat up in his chair, startled and disoriented. He was sitting at his desk in the hospital, the climactic scene of Plan 9 from outer space playing on his laptop. The alien's damaged flying saucer soared over the city, trailing flames behind it. He remembered Vampira's razor teeth tearing into his neck, and he slammed the computer screen down, just as the flying saucer exploded. He'd had enough of this fucking movie for tonight. Hell, maybe forever. God, he hated nightmares. He always believed that they were real while they were happening, and for the first few seconds after waking, they still felt real. And once he'd realized he'd been dreaming, he'd feel shitty for an hour or more, sometimes for the rest of the night. It was Halloween, though. He supposed it was almost a requirement to have a nightmare tonight. Plus, the hospital could be creepy at times, especially at night, so that didn't help. He remembered the conversation he'd had with Alyssa not long ago. I've been tending to our celebrity patient all day. Is that bad? Let's just say her face doesn't stimulate anyone's appetite. He checked the time on his watch and was disappointed to see how many hours remained in his shift. Sometimes the nights really dragged in this place. He yawned, stretched, and rubbed the sleep from his eyes. He saw a flash of lightning through the main entrance doors, followed almost immediately by another crack of thunder. It was pouring rain outside, an absolute torrent. And he was glad it had held off until after trick or treat was over. Nothing worse for a kid than having a night of fun ruined by the weather. Another flash of lightning. Burke saw something standing across the street. Someone he would have sworn hadn't been there a moment ago. The night grew dark again, and thunder boomed. He had had the impression that something was off with whoever was out there, but his momentary glimpse hadn't been enough to show him precisely what. He kept his gaze focused on the spot across the street where he'd seen the figure and waited for the next flash of lightning. A few seconds later, it came, accompanied by another burst of thunder. This time, Burke saw exactly what was wrong with the person outside. The motherfucker, who was dressed in a clown costume, didn't have a head. Burke felt a cold, queasy ripple in his stomach, and pinpoints of sweat appeared on his forehead. Don't be an infant, he told himself. It's Halloween. Somebody put on a headless clown costume and is walking around fucking with people. That's all. But it wasn't just the figure's apparent lack of head. It was the way he stood, statue still, in the driving rain, as if he didn't care that he was getting soaked, or didn't even notice. Another lightning flash, and the figure raised a hand and waved enthusiastically at Burke, the way an excited child might. How could the thing see him if it didn't have a head? Because it's a costume, idiot. The guy's got eye holes in the chest or something. He waited for another lightning flash, but before one could happen, he heard an eerie moan come from down the hallway. The hairs on the back of his neck rose at the sound, and he turned to look in its direction, but the hallway was empty. Lightning flashed, and he whipped his head around in time to see that the headless asshole was gone. Good. He didn't have time to worry about the sick prankster right now. He had to go check out that sound. He'd worked there long enough to have gotten good at telling which room sounds came from, and he felt fairly certain that the moan had come from Victoria Hayes's room. I hope I'm saying that name right. That's where Alyssa had gone before he dozed off. What if she were still in there and in trouble? She'd said Victoria had been cooperative, but the woman had ripped the face off a talk show host Monica Brown in her dressing room earlier that day. Anyone who could do something like that was capable of anything. He grabbed a two-way radio from his desk and was already walking briskly down the hallway as he thumbed the transmission button. "Dean, come in," he said. Dean was one of the night security guards, a solid guy who Burke could always rely on. A crackle of static sounded, followed by Dean's tinny voice. "Go for Dean." "I need you here. Room 703 in the East Wing. I think we might have a situation on our hands. Over." "I'm 10-2 at the moment." "Say again? I lost you." "I'm taking a shit, man." "So much for being reliable." "Just get your ass down here. Pronto." He lowered the radio to his side and started running. He had a bad feeling about this. Really bad. When he reached 703, he found the door shut and locked. That was basic security protocol, so he wasn't surprised Alyssa had followed it. He would have been shocked if she hadn't. But now he'd wished he'd been more lax. She'd been more lax. He pulled a ring of keys from his pocket, found the master key that opened the cells in this wing, inserted it to the lock with a shaky hand, and turned it. There was a metallic snick. And Burke withdrew the key, flung the door open, hurried inside, and immediately stopped in his tracks. The two-way radio fell from his hand and struck the tile floor, shattering its plastic casing. He didn't notice. His full attention was fixed on the nightmarish tableau before him. Jesus Christ. Victoria, garbed in a gore-soaked hospital gown, sat cross-legged on the floor next to Alyssa's prone body. She held a fucking head in her hands, chalk-white skin, pointed nose and chin, hideous teeth. Its eyes moved in their sockets, and its mouth opened and closed rapidly like a goddamn piranha. The thing was somehow alive. Victoria had pressed the head to Alyssa's face, and it was eagerly tearing strips of meat from the woman with its discolored teeth and swallowing them whole. 2/3 of the flesh on Alyssa's face was gone, skin and muscle both, revealing the majority of her skull, the bone wet with blood. That's when he knew Alyssa was dead. At least he hoped she was. That way she wouldn't have to experience the horror and pain of what was happening to her. And the smell. The room stank of vomit, piss, shit, and blood. A sewer and abattoir all in one. Something protruded from the base of the head. At first, Burke thought it was some kind of tail. It was thin and twisted, its rubbery surface covered with tiny veins, and Burke realized it wasn't a tail. It was a fucking umbilical cord. Victoria held the end of the cord in her mouth, sucking on it as if it were a fleshy straw. The cord writhed and pulsated, pushing lumps of something along its length, and Burke thought of how cartoons depicted a snake eating, with bits of food sliding down its throat and along its body like objects on a conveyor belt. When one of the bits reached the end of the cord, Victoria tilted her head back and slurped it down as if it were an oyster. Burke experienced a nearly crippling wave of nausea, and he thought he was going to puke up the items from his wife's zombie platter that he'd eaten earlier, food shaped like fingers, ears, eyeballs, and brain, with plenty of blood sauce. But his body was in such a state of shock that all but most of his necessary bodily biological functions were offline, and that included regurgitation. Victoria licked her lips, well, where her lips would have been if she had any, and turned to look at Burke. He knew about Victoria's mutilated face, but he'd never seen any pictures of her, nor had he been working when she'd been brought in by police after attacking Monica Brown. He'd imagined what she must look like, but he hadn't come close to picturing the awful reality of what had been done to her. Her nose was gone, replaced with a couple of reptile-like slits, and she was also missing her left eye, the space where it had been sealed over with scar tissue. Her remaining eye looked like it belonged to some strange deep-sea creature, cold, unfeeling, and utterly alien. Her front teeth, slick with blood from the grisly meal she had just been enjoying, protruded prominently from her lipless mouth. In total, she was a nightmare dragged forth from the deepest, darkest pit of hell and given shape and form. Her single eye glowed yellow, and if Burke hadn't been locked in a state of near total paralysis, he would have screamed, "Nightmare, Vampira, Victoria." She let the cord fall away from her mouth and giggled. She picked up the head, Alyssa's blood smeared on its mouth, then rose to her feet. She tucked the head under one arm and reached out with a bloody hand, palm up as if pleading to him. "Help me, help me, help me." She continued repeating the phrase, sounding like a demonic parrot as she moved forward, the head's umbilical cord dragging the floor behind her, hand now curled into a twisted claw, eager to tear into his flesh. And that's chapter 3. I'm going to check in with you guys. How's everyone doing? Demonic parrot, yep. Hey, what's happening, Joe? Great to see you. So guys, Media Poop Shoot. Some of you over on the Discord noticed that I dropped his channel over there. Joe, I still need to send you the link to the Discord. I'm sorry, but I had to come home right away and do the stream where I'm reading the Terrifier 3 novelization, as I'm sure you figured out, or maybe somebody told you. Guys, I just met Joe at the Silent Night, Deadly Night screening, and he's got a channel. Check it out. Erica, feel free to drop the link in the chat if you'd like. And guys, Joe's just been doing this for a little bit. He's getting going. He's out in this same kind of area that I'm out in, West Valley of Phoenix. And you know what I always say. Throw him a sub. Check out some of the stuff. If it ends up not being your thing, there's no fault in unsubscribing, but give him a shot. How about that? Let's show each other some support and be excellent to one another. How about that? Excellent. It looks like you guys... Hey, Allie, how are you doing? So good to see you. Look at how badass Allie looks in her. She's got this look on her. She's like, don't fuck with me. That is a tough look, Allie. Like, I wouldn't mess with you. If I saw you in a dark alley, Allie, I'd turn around. I'd be like, nope, I might as well be Art the Clown. I'm out of here. I'm just joking. You're very lovely, but you look so tough. You look so tough. Look at that tough face. There you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Erica. Yeah, guys, let's see if we can get him... let's see if we can get him to a nice little milestone here as far as subscribers go. That would be fun. That'd be pretty cool. Doesn't sound like an umbilical cord so much. Hey, I didn't write the book. No, just these words are too smart for me. I love that. I get that a lot when I interact with in the chat sometimes on Discord. Erica will be like, what's that word? But let me check on... I want to check on the poll. It looks like I missed a super chat. How are you liking the book so far as the poll, guys? We have 25 votes. 56% of you say I can imagine every detail. 32% of you are saying keep reading, Monkey Boy. I love it. 8% say I'm just here for the sweater, and 4% say you are not so good at reading. Ouch. Well, fair enough. I try. I can hear my stomach grumbling too. It's wild. Hey, thank you so much, Joe, for dropping a $5. I think you know now. Yes, Terrifier 3. There we go. We're gonna read another chapter or two. We'll see how far I get. I am very hungry and I have to hop on a call with Cecil to do a review for Silent Night, Deadly Night. But don't worry, guys. If I can't do 3 tonight, I'll make it up to you. How about it? And thank you so much, Joe, for becoming a YouTube channel member, man. That's amazing. Yeah, guys, it was really funny. I was sitting there all by myself in the theater. Other people came in right as the movie was about to start, but, you know, before the previews and everything, I'm just sitting there, middle of the E row, and this guy comes up, walks in the row, walks like right, you know, he's coming right up to me, and he's like, oh, wow, how about that? Like, he's going to sit in the seat next to me, and he's like, I'm just messing with you, man. And turned around, and then I looked down at him after he found a seat, and I was like, dude, I just saw, I know what you did last summer, like earlier this year, and some guy was sitting at the end, and then he did get up and move right next to me. And so I got up because I thought that was weird. But I thought it was a funny interaction to have. I appreciate that, people that can show their personality to a stranger. So we just started talking, and I told him that I do this, and he told me that he does what he does. And it's just wild. Sometimes that's just how you meet people that are, you know, what we like, guys, is a little bit different and a little bit weird. And you just never know, you know, sometimes you're just going to, by happenstance, meet somebody at a movie theater. Like, I met somebody at the Jurassic World Rebirth screening sitting right next to me. And even when I shouted at the guy to turn off his phone, I turned to this guy who I didn't know. And I was like, dude, I promise I'm not an asshole. I just can't stand that. And then we chatted after the movie, and he became a channel member, Murphy Bernard. How about that? So it's amazing what just being nice to people and opening up a little bit can get you in this world. It's very encouraging. Thank you so much for the super chat, Joe, and thank you so much for becoming a channel member. I'm gonna have a sip of water. There we go. Hollywood Lido's joining. Love it. Allie, definitely a baddie. Yeah. I mean, I won't say the other obvious thing about her picture, but, you know, whew. Kill me, please. Oh, we have fun here. It is a good thing I went for the previews. You know, I went in for the previews because Erica was like, well, what if they do a Scream 7? Like, Erica doesn't sound like that. That's just how I want to represent it in my head. What if they have a Scream 7 trailer? And I was like, oh, shit, I got to run in there. Oh, fun stuff. Hey, you know what? You take a chance, and then you meet somebody that, I mean, whatever, we just met, but we were friendly. You meet somebody that could become a friend. So I think it's worth the risk, you know? But yeah, sometimes you try to joke with somebody that's a stranger and they look at you like, you're trying to fuck me or fight me? And people can take it in a weird way. Okay. I think I do plenty of that. I think I'm pretty all right now. So when do we vote on the books you're going to read? Because I have a list for you to read, Davey. What do you want me to read? Like romance novels? Guys, should I do... How about this? We'll get into another chapter. I might only be able to do one more chapter tonight, guys, but I'll make it up for you, and I'll do, the next chapter. I'll at least do the sixth chapter public, even if we don't reach the goal here tonight. I don't want to keep Cecil waiting and all that kind of good stuff. But I'm going to do another poll here. Should I start a booktube channel? And that's just a channel here on YouTube where I read. Might be kind of fun. And I don't go full ASMR, but I try to make sure that my voice is pleasing. I'm definitely, Joe, this is your first time joining a live. I'm definitely this is reserved version because I just want to keep the atmosphere kind of going, with the music we've got and Christmas sweater and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Am I being inappropriate? Not an asshole by any stretch. Thanks for tolerating my silly Coors Light ass. I love it. Oh, that's fun. That's fun stuff. Literally have watched all previews just in case the Scream 7 trailer drops. Still no. But the one is really good. The one that we got's really good. Mine would not be family friendly. Yeah. If it's on a different channel, we could get non-family friendly. And Allie, if you want to arrange something, if you want to have a personal arrangement with me where I read stuff for you, I'm sure we can find a fair exchange. So you've got my number, literally, so you can reach out. All the Davey burns, I know. I get so mistreated by the group here. I love it. I love you guys. Dance Monkey, there we go. Yeah, no, it would be. Yeah, it would be. I mean, we could get really sultry and naughty with it too. So I would go all in. Just so you know, if you want to do that, I would go all in. Thank you so much, Joe. Guys, subscribe to Media Poop Shoot if you haven't already. And when he drops that new video tonight, go and give it a watch. Jump into the comments. Death Squad representing. Give him some love, guys. Let's make this next video that he drops, one of his best, or just a really fun one for him to engage with you guys over. How about it? Yeah, not just bows, deep bows. Shave them first and everything, just so you can really feel every little bit. Okay, let's get back to the book before I get in trouble and get kicked off YouTube. But now that Allie has talked about it, now I'm tingling in certain places. I'm trying to focus. Allie, darn you. Hey, and we want to see it keep on growing, and we are very welcoming and sweet people. So, Erica, did you share the Discord? If you drop the Discord, then Joe, you can sign up for the Discord right now before you jump in and do your review. Okay, guys, are you ready to, yeah, tight pants time. Big time. Guys, I am all backed up. You know what I mean? It's been a while. Okay. I gotta stop or else Joe is going to be like, yeah, I thought this was cool for 5 minutes. This guy's a fucking weirdo. And not the kind of weirdo that I like. Okay, guys, chapter 4. I'm going to read chapter 4, and then I do have to bounce, but don't worry, guys. You will get chapter 5 publicly at some point. So don't hate me. And if we reach the rest of that goal, which we probably won't, and that's totally fine, we'll just take it as we go. Okay? Damn, girl. Damn. Trying to look at your, eyes up here, Davey. Okay. Chapter 4. The sight of Victoria coming at him broke his paralysis, and he slowly backed into the hallway. He knew he should turn and haul ass, but as much distance between him and the monstrous mutilated thing still coming toward him, but he couldn't tear his gaze away from her. The piss yellow light shining in her one eye held him transfixed, and it took all his will to take these slow steps backward. She didn't rush toward him, but matched his pace as if she was enjoying this, playing with her food. The head's eyes shone with sick delight at this game, and it licked the blood from its mouth as Victoria advanced. Burke bumped into the wall opposite Victoria's room, and he pressed himself hard against it as if trying to force himself through the fucking thing to get away from her and that goddamned leering head. He sensed movement to his right, and he turned to see a rain-soaked, headless body walking down the hall toward him. It was the figure he'd seen from the desk, only now he could see that it wasn't a costume. Whatever this thing was, it was real. "Oh my God," he breathed. He got it now. Head without a body, body without a head. It was a match made in hell. The last few moments had strained his sanity to the breaking point, and he wondered if he was going to pass out or descend into madness. He figured the odds were just about even at this point. Victoria, as if sensing his weakness, bent down and placed the head on the floor where it would be out of the way but still have a good view of the action. She then straightened, rushed at him, and fastened one of her gore-slick hands around his throat, pinning him to the wall. His self-preservation instinct remained more or less intact, and it kicked into gear. He punched her in the face, putting all his considerable muscle into it. Victoria's head snapped back from the impact, but all she did was laugh. The head laughed too, but silently, as if unable to produce sound. Burke ignored the horrid thing, gritted his teeth, and punched Victoria again and again and again, each time harder than the one before. Her head snapped back with each impact, but all she did was keep laughing like a lunatic hyena. Burke had sliced his knuckles on her prominent teeth, and blood ran freely from the wounds. He barely felt the pain, though. Victoria might have looked like a monster, but her body was that of an average human woman. Burke was a big guy who regularly worked out and lifted weights. He'd put everything he had into those punches, but she'd taken no apparent damage and shrugged off the blows as if they were nothing. The headless body reached them and stopped moving. The thing had no eyes, but as it stood there, dripping rainwater onto the floor, Burke could feel it watching them anyway. Victoria tightened her grip on his throat, partially cutting off his air. Definitely playing with her food, he thought. He placed his hands on her chest and tried to shove her off him, but it was no use. He couldn't budge her so much as a fraction of an inch. It was like trying to push a huge block of steel across a floor covered in industrial strength glue. It was at this moment that Burke knew he was well and truly fucked. Still holding him against the wall with one hand, Victoria shoved the bloody fingers of the other into his mouth and took hold of his jaw. The body stepped forward, placed its filthy gloved hands onto either side of his face, and viciously slammed the back of his head against the wall. Bright light flashed behind Burke's eyes. An instant later, the pain hit. He screamed, and the body began slamming his head against the wall repeatedly. Victoria still gripping his jaw, her hand moving back and forth with each blow. The body pulled his head forward one more time, and Burke heard the wet sound of his blood-matted hair peeling away from the wall. The body held him like that for a long moment and then slammed his head backward a final time. Burke's skull collapsed like a rotten eggshell, blood and brains oozing through the new cracks in the bone and splattering onto the floor. His eyeballs shot out of their sockets as if jet-propelled, struck the body's chest, and bounced. While all these things were happening, Victoria tore Burke's jaw from his face in an explosion of blood and threw it to the ground. His tongue now dangled loosely in the air, and Victoria flicked it with her finger and giggled as it swung back and forth. The body let go of the crushed ruin that had been Burke's head, and his lifeless form slid down the wall, leaving a wide smear of blood and brain matter behind it as it slumped into a sitting position. Victoria turned, picked up the head, and cradled it like a baby. She slipped a bloody finger into its mouth, and it closed its eyes in contentment as it began suckling. Victoria no longer possessed the facial muscles to smile, but her voice was tender as she spoke. "Body's home." Victoria opened the door to the utility closet, switched on the light, and then stepped inside, the head tucked under her arm once more. The body followed her in, then closed the door so they could have some privacy. Victoria knew from her previous residency in this facility that fewer staff were on duty late at night, but the hospital was far from deserted. Security cameras monitored all exits and entrances. Exits and entrances. Whew. And additional cameras were positioned in every hallway. The patients housed in this place were dangerous, and some of them, like herself, were incredibly dangerous, hence the need for such precautions. Since Burke monitored the camera feeds in the section of the hospital, Victoria thought they had some time before anyone realized something awful had happened here tonight, but that didn't mean they could lollygag. They needed to get down to business. A metal folding chair sat in the middle of the floor and the body took a seat. Victoria could smell marijuana residue in the air, and she figured the staff sometimes snuck in here for a little relaxation during their shifts. The pathetic sheep would sit in the chair, fire up a joint, and try to forget about their petty, meaningless woes for a few paltry minutes. Shelves lined the walls, filled with all manner of goodies. Victoria saw an empty space on one shelf large enough for the head, and she placed it there while she kept shopping. It watched her as she quickly sorted through the various items in the closet: cleaning supplies, tools, light bulbs, trash bags, toilet paper, searching for what she needed. She selected a staple gun, super glue, duct tape, and a variety of sharp objects such as pins, nails, and screws. Time to Frankenstein this bitch. She went to work. First, she fed the umbilical cord back into the body by sliding it down the neck hole. Then she stuck the sharp objects she'd collected into the flesh of the neck, their pointy sides facing upward. She slathered super glue over the sharp objects and the flesh around them before grabbing the head and slamming it down onto the neck. Then she punched staples into it and finished by wrapping a healthy amount of duct tape around the neck. Art shook his head to make sure it wouldn't fall off. Then he grinned and gave Victoria a thumbs up. She placed a hand on his head, ran her fingers down his face, along his neck, over the tape, and onto his shoulder, examining her work. Wholesome, she said. Dean Holloway jogged through the hospital halls on his way to the East Wing. When he'd finished his 10-2, he'd tried calling Burke on the radio, but the man hadn't answered. That wasn't like him. Burke always answered, even if it was just to shoot the shit for a few minutes. Burke also liked to play practical jokes, and it was Halloween, which was something of a high holy day for him. Last year, he'd called Dean and told him he'd seen someone suspicious hanging around outside the East Wing entrance. When Dean went to check it out, that someone had turned out to be Burke, hiding behind a car in the east parking lot with a bucket of balloons filled with water and shaving cream. When Dean approached the entrance, Burke had stood and started hurling the balloons at him. His aim was good, and the front of Dean's uniform was swiftly covered with shaving cream. Dean had been so pissed. For a moment, he'd consider drawing his pistol and shooting the fucker in the ass. Even if Dean hadn't been on the John, he wouldn't have been in a rush to get to Dean and find out what this year's Halloween prank was. I think we found another typo, misprint. But when Burke didn't pick up when he called, Dean knew something was wrong, and he cursed himself for not taking Burke seriously. He rounded a corner, entered the hallway that led to the front desk, and immediately stopped. Halfway down, one of the patient room doors was open, and Burke sat with his back against the opposite wall. There was blood all over the floor around him, and the front of his shirt was covered with the stuff. His face was messed up. Dean couldn't quite tell how from here, but it sure as shit didn't look good. Burke? If this is another goddamn joke, it's not funny. Knock it the hell off, okay? Burke didn't move, didn't speak. Fuck. Dean drew his gun and continued down the hallway, walking slowly now, senses on high alert. Part of him felt like a goddamn fool for falling for another one of Burke's stupid pranks, although he had to admit this one seemed pretty fucking elaborate. If it was a prank, Burke had definitely leveled up. But as a security guard, Dean couldn't afford to assume everything was all right here. He had to treat each situation as it were a potential threat until proven otherwise. He was still a few yards away from Burke when he knew this wasn't a joke. He was an army vet who had served in Afghanistan, and he recognized the coppery tang of blood. He could also see that the problem with Burke's face was that he no longer had one. His head had been completely pulped. His jaw lay on the floor, as did his eyes. It seemed like the damn things were looking at him accusatorily, as if to say, "We'd still be nestled comfortably in our sockets if you pulled up your pants when Burke called and hauled ass over here." As he'd done 100 times or more in Afghanistan, he imagined opening a safe, putting his emotions inside, shutting the door, and locking it. He couldn't afford to be overwhelmed by grief or paralyzed by fear. He felt a familiar calm settle on him, and he hurried the rest of the way to Burke. Although he knew it was pointless, he crouched down and pressed a pair of fingers on the side of the neck to check for a pulse. He wasn't surprised when he didn't find one. God damn it, Burke. What the hell happened here? He also wasn't surprised when Burke didn't answer his question. He stood and stepped over to the open doorway, gun raised. He could smell the stench wafting out of the room before he entered, so rank it made his eyes water. He walked inside and saw a nurse lying on the floor, just as dead as Burke. Most of her face had been stripped of flesh, yet enough remained that he recognized her as Alyssa. He went over to her and checked her for a pulse, but with no more success than he'd had with Burke. He looked around the room, then saw pools of blood spread across the floor, but he couldn't immediately tell what had caused them. Someone, presumably the patient here, had written words in blood on one of those walls. One was a name, Vicky. The other words surrounded that name, all of them in capital letters: cunt, filth, bitch, slut, pig, whore. There was no sign of the patient who resided here, and Dean suspected that she, or they had written those words and killed both Alyssa and Burke. In a situation like this, the protocol was to call the local police for backup and then review the security camera footage for any indication of what had happened and where the perpetrator had gone. Unable to handle the stink in there any longer, he left the room and walked down the hallway several feet to put a little distance between himself and Burke's body. He then took his phone out of his pants pocket and prepared to dial 911. But before he could complete the call, he heard a series of soft snicks up and down the hallway. He recognized the sound and understood what it meant, and his blood turned ice water in his veins. Victoria, or rather the entity currently inhabiting her body, hummed the Clown Cafe song as she and Art approached the front desk, Art doing a little dance to the tune. She watched to make sure his head didn't come loose, and she was gratified when it stayed on tight. She hoped he managed to keep his head attached for a while. Healing him after he'd blown out his brains last year had been difficult, but his parts had still been mostly connected, which helped. Fixing him after he'd been decapitated, especially by a thrice-damned sword, had been far more labor-intensive, pun intended. She didn't want to go through anything like that again if she could avoid it. Not so much because of the pain, that part had actually been kind of fun, but because it drained her. She'd worked too hard too long to build up her strength to squander it on keeping her pet clown intact. Her intent was for both of them to walk outside into the rain and disappear into the storm. But when they reached the desk where the newly deceased Burke had worked, a delightful thought occurred to her. You know something, Art? He stopped dancing and gave her a little shrug as if to say, What? Why should the two of us have all the fun? We should share. Art grinned and nodded. Victoria walked around behind the desk. A small console with several buttons and switches sat next to a closed laptop. This was where Burke had been watching that silly movie of his earlier, the one she'd used as inspiration for the little mindfuck she'd given him. Victoria was interested only in a pair of buttons on the console. From her previous stay in this hospital, she knew these buttons were for emergencies only. One automatically locked every patient door in the East Wing, while the other unlocked them all. The former was to be used in case of a patient riot, while the latter was to be employed if the facility was on fire and patients needed to be evacuated immediately. It was this second button Victoria pressed. Then she came out from behind the desk and rejoined Art. He laughed uproariously and silently at what she'd done. The two of them then exited the building and walked into the violent storm raging outside. I'm going to have a sip of water, guys, before we wrap this up. I need to get reading glasses. Contribute to Davey Deathray's Reading Glasses Fund by purchasing a $5 super chat. Dean rushed into the hallway in time to see patients leaving their rooms. Men and women of varying ages looked around, unsure of what was happening and what they should do. One of them, a cadaverous man who resembled a skeleton draped in a thin layer of skin, noticed Dean. He cocked his head to the side as if unsure what to make of the security guard, then started walking toward him. Dean aimed his weapon at the man. Stop, or I'll fire. I'm not fucking around. Alerted to his presence by his voice, the rest of the patients in the East Wing looked in his direction and started walking toward him too. Their eyes were glazed over, faces blank, almost as if they were sleepwalking. I mean it, you crazy fucks. I'll blow every one of your goddamn brains. I'll blow out every one of your goddamn brains. He estimated there were at least 20 of them, and his gun held 15 rounds, not enough to deal with them all. He started shooting anyway. His attack prompted the patients to rush towards him, eyes wild, teeth bared, some snarling like animals, some deathly silent. He'd always been cool in combat situations. He hit every target he aimed for, and although every shot wasn't a kill strike, it was usually enough to incapacitate his target. But he soon discovered he'd been right. 15 rounds were not enough, and when the patients reached him, he dropped his weapon and fought using every hand-to-hand combat technique he'd learned in the army. They weren't enough either. The surviving patients fell upon him, and his screams echoed through the halls of the East Wing. Outside, surrounded by the sound of thunder and falling rain, Victoria and Art laughed. The rain had started to let up by the time Art and Victoria reached the subway station. It was late and no one was around. Even if the station had been full, it was still Halloween. The only attention they would have drawn would have been from people admiring their kick-ass costumes. They were still drenched when they boarded the train and took seats next to one another, and puddles of rainwater began to form around their feet. Art tilted his head right, then left, checking on Victoria's repair job. Still on tight. Good thing the super glue she'd used was waterproof. Victoria swung her bare legs back and forth like a little girl. A little pale girl. She was still swinging her legs when the train slowed and then stopped at the next station. The door to the car slid open, but only one passenger got on. There was one other passenger on the train, and when Art looked over at him, he did a double take. The guy was in his 20s, tall and lean, and he was dressed in a costume, likely going home after attending a Halloween party. Nothing remarkable about any of that. What was remarkable was his costume. He dressed like Art in a black and white outfit, oversized shoes, and fingerless white gloves. He'd gone all out on his face, too. Skull cap, white makeup, prosthetic nose and chin. The only thing missing was a plastic trash bag filled with murderous tools. The young man took a seat on the other side of the car. The young man took a seat on the other side of the car as the door closed and the train began moving once again. Art turned to Victoria and they shared a look of disbelief. What were the odds? They both looked at the guy. With one hand, he waggled his fingers at them in greeting. With the other, he lifted a bicycle horn and gave it a honk, one clown acknowledging the other. The guy's outfit was pristine, not so much as a speck of dirt on it. Art looked down at his own bloody and tattered clothes before returning his gaze to his imitator once more. The imitator noticed them for the first time. His eyes widened, and he grinned with delight. I was going to do the blood thing, but I was worried about cleaning up. He held up his cell. Can I take a picture? Art and Victoria exchanged a quick glance. Then they both looked at the young man, smiled ghoulishly, and nodded. The man started taking snapshots, moving his phone between vertical and horizontal positions in an attempt to get the very best pictures. I'm going to post this, the man said. Seriously, you two killed it. When he was finished, he swiped through the pictures, grinning as he examined them. Satisfied, he gave Art and Victoria a thank you wave and settled back to play on his phone some more. That's a nice costume, Victoria said. Grinning, Art stood and walked toward the unlucky passenger. All right, and that is chapter 4, guys. I hope that's okay if we close things out tonight. Again, don't worry, you're going to get chapter 5. You already completed the super chat goal from last night. So at the very least, we're going to get chapter 5 out of the way for you guys on a live. And I'm thinking I will do that probably early Saturday. So I am glowing, Steph. I am glowing. So that's kind of cool that I'm just going to move the mic back here a little bit. Kind of cool that some of our UK folks will get to enjoy a chapter, and maybe I'll throw in an extra chapter. Maybe if I'm feeling saucy. Okie dokie. Okay, so Erica's cool with it. It's because Allie it's because I told Cecil I'd do a review with him at 9:30, and I took a while saying hi to you guys. Thank you for the golf clap, Allie. Whew, gosh, I gotta cover the screen. It's just too much. It's just too hot. Yeah, you guys have been awesome. let's see here. Oh, you guys are just talking to one another. Hey, we have Eli in here. How are you doing, Eli? So great to see you. One of our great channel members and Death Squad mods. Yeah, let me just I thought I had my phone, but I don't. I was going to check my phone to see if Cecil had already reached out to me. But yeah, we'll go ahead and close things out here tonight for this third late night with the Davey in a row. Now I know. So here's the cool thing. Oh, glowing because she got me excited. Don't do that. Please don't do it. Please don't change your picture. I won't talk about it anymore, I swear. I just needed to get it out of my system this time. Speaking of getting something out of my system, but anyways, yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. 3 nights of late night with the Davey in a row, and I'm learning something about doing this reading thing and how much is probably reasonable to do in each sitting, not only just for my voice and everything like that, but also just thinking about, you know, the excitement and the attention span. I think hour to an hour and a half is like a good amount of like reading and talking. Let me know if you guys feel differently about that. I don't know. I try to have like a pretty good sense of how things are going. And look at that, 14 votes, and you guys want me to start a booktube channel. That's pretty cool. That's pretty all right. Erica's having fun with the live read along. Well, you know, if we can keep on bringing in super chats, I will keep on leaving it open to the public. I just thought that I would keep it exclusive for channel members because it does feel a little bit more like work and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not the kind of, you guys know how I am about the super chats. Like, it's all just extra fun stuff, you know? I know. Sorry, Joe. I do have to hop off and do the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake review. And I'm really excited to talk about that with Cecil and excited to see, you know, what he thinks of it and everything like that. Yeah, Allie, you can't change your profile pic. You are an absolute stunner, girl. Don't ever change. Come on. I do need a log burning on the TV behind me. Yeah, maybe I can set something up like that. Maybe I can. Eli, you should be my producer. We'll go full legit, you know, and I'll hire Eli as my producer. How about that? Christmas lights would be cool. I would have, if I were in my previous place before my divorce, I had a way cooler setup, and I'm just in a in-between spot right now. So I'm trying to do what I can. My life completely fell apart, Erica. Oh my God, if I wore a Santa hat, I would sweat even more than I'm already sweating. It's really bad. I would probably crumble under the pressure because the heat and trying to read and do a good performance would, like, oh my gosh, it would be wild. But I like the idea. We can just superimpose one on my head in post or something like that. Yeah, don't let your kids get up in the middle of the night trying to open a gift. Your parents will catch you. It's log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log, it's better than bad, it's good. Oh, no to changing the picture. Sweet, cool. Heck yeah, I dig it. Yeah, Allie, don't ever change that picture. Thank you so much, Lido. Really appreciate you. I'll have to check on the football game here. I need to eat a little something. I need to have some water, and then I'll jump on that call. So guys, keep an eye out. I'll share it and everything on the Discord, and I'll share it on the channel, the Silent Night, Deadly Night, review and all that stuff. And we'll be back on Saturday for, at the very least, to read chapter 5. Maybe I'll throw in, right, chapter 5? Yeah. Maybe I'll throw in chapter 6 as well. But I love you guys so very much. Thank you to, I had to burp. Thank you to the Patreon members, YouTube channel members, our Death Squad mods, and thank you to Allie for having such an awesome icon picture that distracts me when I'm trying to host a show. I love you guys so very much. You guys are amazing. The community means the world to me. If you haven't checked out Joe's channel, Media Poop Shoot, go give him a sub. He's a new bud that I met at the screening tonight. So spread that community love. Show him what the Death Squad is all about. And yeah, guys, I will be back. I don't think I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to take the night off from YouTube. Maybe get a hang in with Mandy if she's able to hang out, and show her the thing, the movie, The Thing, for the very first time. and have a bunch of candy and just like be a fucking kid and get away from all the craziness of this week. So you guys have been awesome. I love you so much. Keep an eye out for the next reading to be on Saturday during the day. And yeah, guys, I guess I don't have anything else to say to you other than Robert the Wolfman's got the prettiest eyes I've ever seen. So there you go. You guys are all amazing. I could say it a million times and it still wouldn't be enough, but I will be back. So until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.